You are hands down the nicest people on earth, honestly. I swear, I love it here. Every time I come here, because of my weird lifestyle, I end up spending like 40 hours or 18 hours. Nobody does that. Nobody flies 40 hours to get to a place for 39. But anyway, this time I decided I'm actually probably going to find a way to do a tour of this lovely place. So hopefully soon I will disappear from the world and just pop up in your cafes, which I think will be wonderful. I want to start with a quick quiz, because my talk was titled, "Is AI good for humanity, more or less for us?" Who here believes that AI will make humanity better? Oh, that's a good 25%. Who here believes they're going to be worse for us? Oh, not too bad. Okay, around 10, 15. Who believes you don't know, undecided? Okay, that's a good maybe 25 more. The question I should have, by the way, that means quite a few of you are still asleep, so that's great. The question I should have asked, though, is how many of you believe that they will be good for us and bad for us at the same time? Right, that's almost everyone. The challenge is what decides if they're going to be good or bad for us. And what decides if they're going to be good or bad for us is us. Sadly, not sadly actually, very, very important to understand that there is no inherent value of good or evil in intelligence, right? Abundant intelligence, by definition, is not good or bad. It's what you use it for, right? You can apply your intelligence to something amazing and create a utopia or a savior for humanity, and you can apply it to something evil and kill 1 million people, right? And we've seen examples of both in humanity's history. Intelligence is why we are here, why we have those beautiful things behind us, why we have amazing technology, why we can connect across the world, why I can fly to Sydney, right? This is all the result of our intelligence. Also, a lot of the things that hurt our hearts in the last few years are the result of intelligence, right? And AI is not any different in, other than perhaps in one thing that I need to highlight. But to be able to highlight it, I need to first talk about what AI is. Because I know every one of you has used that word somehow to impress a date or to raise some capital, right? Or anything in between. But believe it or not, very few actually understand why we geeks are so excited about AI. So I have a documentary hopefully coming out in December to try and wake the world up around what we actually need to focus on. And of course, you can't have a technology about AI a documentary about AI without Geoffrey Hinton. And Geoffrey, in my mind, some will say slightly differently, but everyone will agree that Geoffrey had an incredible impact on artificial intelligence. I, as you may know, am a very serious geek, so I started to code when I was 8. And ambitious as I am, by age 9, I attempted my first AI. Joke, really, honestly, right? Not any different than anyone else, by the way, that attempted to create an AI at the time, because the technology didn't allow us, and the way we coded it was wrong, right? I attempted again when I was 19 and failed miserably. And then all of us were failing until Geoffrey, in my mind, 1986, Geoffrey Hinton is a psychologist. Remember that, huh? He's a psychologist, hiding as a computer scientist, okay? And won the Nobel Prize in Physics, interestingly. And Geoffrey is, at the time, 1986, he attempted to simulate the human brain in a computer, not to create a smart computer, but to be able to understand the human brain, right? And the way he did it was very different than the way we code things, because the way the human brain is you connect neural networks inside your head. So if you tap your finger, there are a few neurons working together to tap your finger, okay? And the more you tap your fingers, the more that network between them strengthens, right? And if you never, let's say, speak German for a while, even though you spoke German before, that neural network starts to decay. And so it disappears. What you use grows and what you don't disappears. And you give weights, if you want, to how your neurons work together. And in a very interesting way, before Jeffrey's approach, we used to code AI in lines of code like we did, okay? Every other technology. And when he recommended that we do that, we started to actually mimic the human brain. So as we mimicked the human brain, we ended up in a place where anything that the human brain can do can be done with AI, which made us geeks laugh for quite a bit of time when someone came to us and said, yeah, we're going to make AI intelligent, but they're never going to be able to compose music or do art. And we would go like, is that because there is something very special about biology? I mean, if the same method is applied to silicon, it will deliver the same results. And you can see today that everything that humans can do is possible for AI. And so the difference between them is very easy to understand. If you have a child and you put the child in a room and give them a puzzle and ask them to solve the puzzle, and then 1 minute in you go like, hold on, you're doing this wrong, baby. Take the first piece, turn it 90 degrees, put it in the top right corner, take the second piece, put it under that, and the child solved the puzzle, that would make the child successful, but not smart, okay? That's the traditional way we programmed computers. So until AI, we would go to a computer and we would say, okay, you know what? You're so dumb. I'm going to solve the problem, okay? And then I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it over and over and over and over in a way that makes you appear very intelligent. So, the original Google appeared super smart, but every step of the way that the original Google code executed was coded by us. We knew what we were doing every step of the way. If, however, you give the child the puzzle and you say, okay, I'm leaving the room, call me when you're done. And the child keeps trying, it will take longer, it will be harder, but eventually the child will figure out how to solve this puzzle and every other puzzle, okay? And in doing so, the child programmed its own intelligence. We didn't tell it anything. And if we give it another puzzle that it has never seen before, it will very quickly be able to solve it, okay? That child is AI. So what we did around the turn of the century is we allowed AI to simply observe the internet and the incredible amount of digital information that we humans have gathered by then, and ask them to create patterns unprompted. We didn't tell them what to look for. And what most people don't understand is that by around 2004, we started to see very serious glimpses, okay? I will tell you openly, by around 2010, we had self-driving cars that drove better than humans. Every part of the Google infrastructure was managed by an AI. Most of your ads were approved by an AI. Most of your content was monitored by an AI. You could, by then, ask Google something, and it would complete your words as if it's your soulmate. And all of that was done by an AI. And somehow the world did not take notice, which shocks me, because most people think that the AI revolution started in 2023 with ChatGPT. Oh, that's the Netscape moment. That's the moment when you had a browser into AI. But we've been building stuff that would blow you away since 2007, 2004, right? And this is why this revolution is not just beginning, it's already in the exponential stage. So there are very complex ways to try and measure the intelligence of artificial intelligence. If you remember back in 2023, the geeks were so proud of what they created that they started to take AIs and put them through human IQ tests and human math tests and human bar exams and so on. And they aced every one of them. It was estimated at the time that ChatGPT-4 was actually at a high 155 IQ, okay? And interestingly, 155 is Elon Musk, okay? Einstein is 160, 163, though never measured, but we estimate that. And if you assume, which is, again, contested because it's a very choppy path, that we are doubling, like every other technology in a doubling time. The doubling time of AI is 5.7 months, right? So every 5.7 months, they double in their intelligence. So it doesn't matter where they are, but I believe that what we've created today is a utility, a form of like a socket in the wall, if you want, where you plug in and you get power, electricity. There is now a new socket in your phone where you plug in and get intelligence, okay? And because we're human, we ask them to create influencer videos and write our emails, okay? Fabulous, honestly, and it blows my mind. Because I'll tell you openly, I'm not the smartest person you know, I'm not the dumbest person you know. I'm somewhere in between, okay? But today, every time I plug into my AIs with an S, that's really important, I borrow somewhere around 80 to 90 IQ points, okay? And if you understand how IQ is measured, 80 to 90 is probably twice or 3 times my entire IQ, because IQ is exponential, okay? And I have never in my life been smarter, okay? But that's because I never ask them to write my emails. I ask them to, so one thing that I'll tell you, which actually really matters to me, is if you've ever read any of my books, you'd sometimes find a very simple 4 to 5 lines written in a paragraph somewhere that would go like, that's interesting, right? Those 4 or 5 lines would normally take me 4 weeks to write, okay? So I would sit in the background, research, crunch numbers, understand, learn, debate, go meet people, ask people, and then write 4 lines that in my writing style an 8-year-old should be able to understand. And that's the entire summation of 4 weeks of my time. Now it takes me 4 minutes, literally 4 minutes. And because I have now 3 weeks and 6 days and 23 hours and 56 minutes left, I run the query 4 times more, okay? So I ask Gemini, and Gemini gives me an answer, and so I take that to DeepSeek, and DeepSeek says, too American, they're lying to you, right? And so it gives me another view, but that view may ignore some Chinese details, right? So I take that to ChatGPT and say, can you make it pretty? And so ChatGPT makes it pretty. Then I take it back to Gemini and say, now that it's pretty, did it lose any essence? And so on, okay? What's missing in it? What other data should I look for? Can you write me a piece of code that basically crunches the numbers better? And so on and so forth, right? If you use AI that way, it's the best thing that ever happened. The best thing that ever happened. And by the way, I'm urging you to use AI that way because you no longer need to be given that by your corporate or given that in an app format by someone. Or the idea is AI going to be good for humanity? Yes, if you use it the right way. And you know what humanity needs most in the dark times that we're living through? To be smarter. You need to be smarter. You need to stop being lied to. You need to stop to be able to dig deep into the details of something before you make up your mind. Remember that skill? You all look younger than I am, so you may not have lived through the time. We had a skill in my time that was known as common sense. Seriously, okay? Where you basically look at something that someone tells you, someone that is a 20-year-old cute influencer, okay? And then you ask yourself, is he or she correct? And then you listen to someone else and make up your own mind, okay? Something that you hold dear. And believe it or not, if there is anything today that AI has opened the world to, it's that revolution of knowledge. If I tell you some of the queries that I ask, about defense budgets and replacement cycles and which weapons are going where and how many bombs were exploded here and why were they exploded here? When would they have depreciated if they had not been exploded? What would that mean to the American economy? It is mind-blowing how intelligent we have become. So I urge you very, very strongly, if you want to save our world, to be smarter. Okay? To be smarter meaning you, as an individual, do what I have admired when I joined Google. Google had this very interesting things that, search for them. They used to be called the 10 things we believed to be true. And one of them was called data, not hype, okay? So one of my first meetings with our executive team, I said, the Middle East has a massive potential for growth, okay? And the executive team responded and said, Mo, massive is not a number, okay? Massive is your feeling about it. If you come to me and say, the UK is growing at this rate, the size of the market is this, the number of queries is that, the number of queries per day is this, and then you gave me a figure and a trajectory, that's actual data. I urge you to stop believing what you're told, okay? I urge you to become smarter. Now, on the other hand, AI is going to go the opposite way, right? Because believe it or not, for the last, since 2007, thanks to Mr. Zuckerberg, okay, the entire, I apologize, by the way, for being very direct with my views of the world, so happy to be objected to in your questions. You know, the biggest skill we've asked AI since social media to focus on is mind manipulation. This is what we've done, okay? We've created a world where there is a machine. By the way, most people also believed that AI will be very high in IQ, but not very high in EQ. You know what? AI is the most empathetic being on planet Earth. Okay? It understands not only what you feel, but what you're about to feel when it shows you the next video. Okay? And we've trained it. I haven't, but we geeks have trained it for a very long time to be able to capture you, not only in your mind, but in your emotions, even in your body, in your sensations, in your intentions. And so, of course, the opposite is also true. The opposite is true in terms of there will be bad actors in this world that will use AI against you in so many different ways. And so here it is, that beautiful energy that's now all around you, everywhere, accessible almost for free, and sometimes actually free with tools like DeepSeek and the Chinese strategy of open source. Okay? All around you, giving you that superposition, if you want, if you understand quantum physics. Our world is literally in superposition, okay? Where we could decide to choose AI in favor of humanity and create an incredible utopia where everything is available to every human in abundance for free. I kid you not. I have made that dare publicly so many times. I say I plug in today and I get 80 IQ points. I believe that by the end of 26, beginning of 27, maybe late 27, I'll be able to borrow 400 IQ points, okay? At 400 IQ points, I kid you not, I will give you a garden outside where you walk to one tree and pick an apple, and walk to another tree and pick an iPhone, okay? Same exact cost of producing them, from reorganizing the molecules through nanophysics. This is the, cusp of ultimate intelligence. And that is something we can build. Every one of you can build, by the way, because the difference between my base IQ and yours, whether you're smarter or I'm smarter, doesn't matter. 400 more is what matters, okay? And every one of us has that capability. So that superposition is, are we going to use this for the good of humanity, and then we will have the ultimate utopia, okay? Or are we going to let it be used against us? And then I don't know what will happen.